Hello, everyone, and I would like to welcome you to our new webinar on how to establish a sustainable cultural heritage management plan for museums. First of all, I would like to inform you that a recorded version of this webinar will be available on the digital hub of the Reinherit project. The webinar will last for about 40 or 45 minutes. The webinar will last for about an hour. There will be about a 45 minutes talk, and then there will be discussion with the audience. Please feel free to post your questions on the chat at the end of the webinar. Once the webinar is over, I invite you to join the Reinherit forum on our digital hub, where you can find different thematic rooms and participate in all the conversations. My name is Konstantinos Roussos, and I'm a doctor of Byzantine archaeology. I am a research assistant at the School of Law of the University of Nicosia for the last 2 years. The School of Law of the University of Nicosia is the largest school of law in Cyprus. Apart from the focus on a variety of global EU and local issues in all fields of law. The School of Law of the University of Nicosia also focuses on the interdisciplinary research. This is the reason why an archaeologist like me works with lawyers. Issues of research include cultural heritage in general, as well as more specific issues. We are delighted to be part of an exciting research project, the Reinherit project, supported by a dynamic consortium. The project has received funding from the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program. Reinherit's mission is to disrupt the current status quo of communication, collaboration, and innovation exchange between museums and cultural heritage sites. We intend to create a model of sustainable cultural heritage management that will foster a digital dynamic European network of heritage stakeholders and assist museums to respond to the challenges of this era. I invite you to visit our new website and follow our social media. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Regarding our role in the project, the University of Nicosia was responsible for the work package 2 entitled Cultural Heritage Needs Analysis and Guidelines. This was a crucial work package for the project since it sets the ground for the next work packages. The main objectives of the work package 2 is to provide an overview of the current state of affairs of professional practice in the cultural heritage sector across Europe, to offer clear and concise information on the cultural heritage sector's needs, challenges, and bottlenecks, and provide measures in the form of practical recommendations that need to be taken into account so as to develop long-term cultural policies and strategies within the digital transformation and innovation context. In the context of Work Package 2, primary research was conducted by Arcada University, our colleagues from Finland, using qualitative and quantitative research methods, a large bulk of data on current methodologies and practice used in the cultural heritage sector for communication, collaboration, and exchange of good practices was collected. At the same time, secondary research was conducted by the University of Nicosia. We outlined the relevant scientific literature on cultural heritage management and positioned this project within it. The literature review we produced is rich in references, offering an in-depth and actual analysis of needs, challenges, opportunities, and innovative trends in the cultural heritage sector. What I'm going to present today derives from our primary and secondary research. This webinar aims to provide information on how to establish a state-of-the-art management plan for museums, which takes into account the latest developments in the field, and to bring forward the main issues and principles that need to be taken into account during the drafting procedure of a cultural heritage management plan. Covering every possible aspect of this complex issue in this webinar is by no means a feasible task. However, I will try to give you an overview of what a modern cultural heritage management plan should contain in order to be a useful tool to guide museums in the future. This webinar follows the one presented by Jaime Lopez on 10 February. Jaime focused more on the concept of sustainability. I will place emphasis on cultural heritage management issues. A recorded version of this webinar is available on the Digital Hub. Let's start by discussing some basic concepts. Let's make it clear what cultural heritage management is, what management planning and cultural heritage management plan is. Cultural heritage management refer to a complex and changeable process through which we can manage the diverse aspects of cultural heritage using a wide set of tools and practices. You can see on the screen how broad is the field of cultural heritage management that includes all these tools and practices. The overall objectives of cultural heritage management are to ensure short-term and long-term protection of cultural heritage with a view to make the utmost of its benefits for the public while considering its sustainability and transmit cultural heritage values to the next generations. Dealing with the inclusive and extensive concept of cultural heritage, the field of cultural heritage management became itself very broad. It also became interdisciplinary since it crosses the boundaries of many disciplines and fields. So you can see on the screen again how broad is this field and how many different disciplines involved. Planning and programming is an important step of cultural heritage management since it sets the ground for the next phases. Management planning is about setting up museums' mission and vision, converting the strategic vision and mission into measurable objectives and performance targets, developing and testing strategies to achieve the desired results, and understanding the big picture and placing the organization within it. The starting point is in the future, not the past or the present. Management planning and the management plan that it produces is increasingly gaining a recognition throughout the world as a strategic and operative tool concerning the protection and enhancement of cultural heritage. It is a crucial process that must be properly integrated into a sustainable model of cultural heritage management. In this respect, it is important for each museum to create a realistic and detailed cultural heritage management plan. What is now a cultural heritage management plan? A cultural heritage management plan is a document that explains management issues, approaches, and requirements relating to museums and sets a framework for decision making over a given period of time. It is a clear and coherent plan for action, a guide to the future. Overall, it is a management tool for museums to use in planning their future activities and operations. The main objectives of a cultural heritage management plan are to protect the values of cultural heritage for present and future generation, promote effective sustainability practices, improve museums' operation, and help museums reposition themselves in an ever-changing world in order to be more relevant and better serve society. Let's talk now about some basics for the Cultural Heritage Management Plan. A Cultural Heritage Management Plan should be sufficiently clear, simple, management oriented, and easily understood. It is the main means of ensuring that everyone in the organization is on the same side. It defines areas of strength to build on, weaknesses to be addressed, and opportunities to be exploited. It can improve the image of visibility of museums, which is important for attracting more people to cultural heritage. Flexibility and adaptability are crucial issues for a cultural heritage management plan. The overall museum behavior is influenced by unpredictable external factors and adaptation to changes. This is more relevant than ever as the COVID-19 pandemic and the current energy and cost of living crisis due to the war in Ukraine have compounded the challenges already faced by the cultural heritage sector and created new ones. Therefore, a cultural heritage management plan should be seen as a dynamic internal document, not a static one, that will be revised and updated on a regular basis between 1 and 5 years in order to help museums adapt to changes in the economic, political, social, and physical environment. It is worth noting that there are considerable variations in the context and character of a management plan depending on the type of property. For example, drafting a management plan for an archaeological site, a major museum, or an urban center will be definitely a complex procedure. Instead, drafting a management plan for a single historic building or a small local museum can be simpler but not less important. However, there are some major issues that almost every management plan should address. What are the main steps for a successful cultural heritage management plan? The first step a museum must take in order to prepare a successful management plan is to look outside the organization and understand how the external environment is changing. In other words, it is crucial to understand the needs, challenges, and opportunities of this era. This will help museums to stay relevant, to deliver their mission more effectively, to identify important threats that need to be addressed, and to act as a major resource for resilience, connection, recovery, and positive change, contributing to the creation of inclusive, peaceful, and sustainable societies in this ever-changing environment. What I'm trying to say is that understanding current needs, challenges, and opportunities is the basis for an effective cultural heritage management plan. In the context of the Rain Heritage project, we mapped the current status quo of the cultural heritage sector in Europe in order to provide an overview of the current needs, challenges, and opportunities. I will give you an overview of the cultural heritage sector needs, challenges, and opportunities as identified by our primary and secondary research. First of all, there is a need for interdisciplinary collaboration so as to avoid fragmentations. The cultural heritage sector is characterized by fragmentation at multiple levels, which creates serious gaps and obstacles to the sustainable management of cultural heritage. This was resulted in difficulties in communication and collaboration between different professional and experts. As such, there are many adversities in terms of how these experts engage with cultural heritage and how they can work together. There is also a need to redefine the relationship between museums and their various audience, and this is crucial for the cultural heritage sectors. Museums are facing adversities in sustaining and inspiring actual audiences as well as in attracting potential audiences. Technological achievements and the recent crisis changed audience behavior, and this change requires new policies that meet these needs. Cultural heritage professionals are facing difficulties in reaching specific target groups, such as young people, locals, and tourists, making cultural heritage relevant to them. Another important need is the need to redefine the management of a collection based on evolving ethical standards and new trends. Collection management is an absolute essential process for museums of all sizes and types, regardless of whether their collection is small or large, public or private. Museums need to redefine the way they manage their collection, taking into account high legal, ethical, and professional standards, as well as using digital and emerging technologies. There is also a need for sustainable business models resilient to changes and crises. We all know that budget and funding are decreasing in the cultural heritage sector. The museum sector currently faces the challenge to reassess its underlying business model. Innovative approaches to funding and sustainability are needed for museums to be resilient to change, to be resilient to changes and crises, to promote and diversify the culture offer, and to see opportunities where crises lay. Finally, there is also a need for environmentally friendly museums. Climate change and environmental issues plays a key role on how museums should be addressed, should be engaged with society as part of the sector's commitment towards it. Museums are expected to operate as change makers in order to better respond to the environmental challenges that the world faces today. This is more relevant than ever as the current energy and cost of living crisis has forced museums to find sustainable ways to operate. Taking into account the needs and challenges of this era, as well as the potential opportunities, museums should take the second step, which is to design a cultural heritage management plan. The design of a cultural heritage management plan should be based on a people-centered and environmentally friendly approach, a clear orientation towards the concept of inclusivity, innovation, accessibility, relevance, democratization, sustainability, resilience, ethics, diversity, professionalism, cooperation, and community participation. Furthermore, a cultural heritage management plan should be based on strategies and accompanied by clear policies, guidelines, and a roadmap on strategies, implementation, and resources allocation in order to facilitate the success of the process. It also should be based on a clear knowledge of the application of digital and emerging technologies which are of relevance to museums. What are now the main issues that almost every cultural heritage management plan should address? Taking into account the big picture that we discussed before, among other things, every cultural heritage management plan should include strategies for the following issues: collection management, audience and local communities engagement, communication, energy and environmental management, intellectual property management, new business models, and financing. Let's start discussing each one of these issues. Let's start with collection management. As I said before, collection management is the core activity of any museum. Setting a collection management plan helps museum to outline the scope of their collection, explain how they care for it, and make collection available to the public, specify themes and priority for future collecting, as well as what types of cultural objects they intend to collect, and increase focus and interest on museums' collections. You can understand that the collection management is a very broad field. We cannot discuss in this seminar all the different aspects of this category, but I can mention some priorities. The first priority should be the digitization. Technologies has changed the way the modern humanity experience museums. By digitizing the museum collection, cultural heritage professionals can engage people with collection, ensuring that collection can be accessible to everyone in a meaningful way. In addition, objects that are not displayed in museums exhibition and are in storage can have at least a digital presence. A second priority is combating illicit trafficking of cultural goods and dealing with return and restitution claims. Museums should adjust their collection management plan in such a way that they can successfully meet the challenge of combating illicit trafficking of cultural goods and dealing with return and restitution claims. They should sensitize the general public and they should convey the message to both local and global audiences that illicit trade in culture good is a serious crime. This is not important. Not on this is not this is important not only for major museums that have received repatriation claims, but it is also important for small and local museums. The entire museum sector are expected to play a decisive role in combating illicit trafficking of cultural property, regardless of whether a museum holds cultural goods in question. For example, a local museum could convey the message to the local audience that illicit trafficking, illicit trade of cultural goods is a serious crime. And this is an important contribution. So let's move to audience and local communities engagement, which is also a crucial issue for museums. It is important for any cultural heritage management plan to overcome the obstacles in reaching cultural heritage audience and set an audience development strategy. The goal here is to engage more people with cultural heritage. Museums, museums should begin by successfully targeting the types of audience that have been overlooked, such as young people and local communities. At the same time, they should refresh the culture offer for existing audiences by developing new experience and deepening their relationships with them. So, given the fact that audience engagement is a major issue for a cultural heritage professional, I will try to give some recommendation for reaching specifically young audiences. First of all, we need to understand young audience in order to determine their specific needs, as well as to better understand how they perceive cultural heritage, how they want to engage with it, and what is important to them. It is also important to promote a real-time dialogue between young people and the cultural heritage professional through forums in websites, social media, etc. It is also necessary to train cultural heritage professionals in audience research, marketing, and communication. It is also important to introduce seminar, games, and digital tools, as evidenced by the visitors' journey conducted by the Rainherit project. Young museum visitors are more likely to use digital tools in a museum environment. Younger people in general have a strong tendency to be interested in technology related experience and in gamification approaches. I would like to invite you to watch the webinar facilitated by Marco Bertini and Paolo Malcianti on how emerging technologies enhance visitor experience of cultural heritage sites. You can find very, very useful material on emerging technologies on this webinar, which is also which has been uploaded on our digital hub. Continuing with the recommendation for reaching young people, it is important to design cultural heritage professionals. It's important to design and implement outreach work and activities to schools, universities, and youth organizations. It is important to promote dialogue and collaboration between cultural heritage professionals, schools, school teachers, and university profession. And it would be nice if people who are working with music, sound, and acting are involved in order to create a new language for communicating with digital natives. Let's move now to communication, which has many relations to the previous issue. Communication between museums and their various audiences has been identified as a strategic issue for a sustainable community, for a cultural heritage, sustainable cultural heritage management. Specifically, social media policies must be agreed and adopted. Various communication tools, some of them borrowed from other sectors, can facilitate the effective implementation of the Cultural Heritage Management Plan. According to Rainherit's primary research, young people get information about the service offerings of museums through recommendations from friends via social media channel. Let's move now to the energy and environmental management. It is crucial for every museum in order to revisit and adapt environmental plans, reduce energy consumption, improve sustainability of buildings, find alternative energy sources, have guidance on how to address the energy and cost of living crisis, raise awareness, inspire climate action, build and share knowledge about human impacts on environment and climate, as well as teach skills. It is also crucial to co-create positive responses and help local communities plan to become more climate resilient. Intellectual property management plan is also crucial for cultural heritage management for every museum. An intellectual property strategy with an emphasis on copyright reinforces cultural heritage as an asset, ensures that no third-party IP assets are infringed, and contributes towards the effectiveness of the management plan. I won't say more about the intellectual property management because there is a webinar. There is also a webinar facilitated by Irini Stamatouthi. The title is IP Management for Museums and Cultural Heritage Management Institution. I invite you to watch this webinar in order to learn more about IP. Continuing with the new business model and financing, so new ideas, concept, and innovative tools related to digital business model will help museums to respond to the new financial reality and facilitate cultural heritage professionals to create new value and deliver it to visitors and other stakeholders, as well as to turn this value into economic, social, and cultural outcomes. In this sense, in parallel to the core services such as exhibitions, museums should include added digital services such as e-shops. Through e-shops, museums can sell museum-related products that represent creative ways for audience to engage with their collection beyond their walls. It can promote digital content, stories, and experience, drawing attention to digital storytelling techniques that moves to more dynamic form of digital creation for which visitors are willing to pay. Narrative-driven content, bespoke curated tours, live events like virtual escape rooms, virtual exhibitions, etc. I invite you also to visit our digital hub. You can find interesting material regarding the issue there. In addition, in the next few days, fact sheet for cultural heritage management will be uploaded on our digital hub. These fact sheets emerge from the primary and secondary research conducted in the Reinherit project and provide interesting information about most of the issues that we discussed in this webinar. For example, there will be fact sheet for some basics regarding cultural heritage management, an introduction to cultural heritage management. There will be there is a fact sheet regarding the cultural heritage management plan, and then there are many, as you can see, many fact sheets regarding specific topics such as how to reach recommendation, how to reach young people, on how to reach local communities. There is a specific fact sheet about IP management, about climate and energy management, about digital transition and emerging technology using in the cultural heritage sector, and of course there will be a fact sheet that deals with the cultural heritage sector's current needs, challenges, and opportunities, which, as I said before, is the basis for a successful cultural heritage management plan. So in the next days, we are able to upload all this material to on our digital hub and will be available to everyone. This is the form this is how a fact sheet looks like. There will be option to download it in a PDF form, and as you can see, the structure of the fact sheet is in a question and answer form, in a form of answer and question. So, to conclude, what I'm trying to say in this webinar, the message that I want to convey is that museums that develop a cultural heritage management plan, implement it effectively and plan for their future, are much more likely to fulfill their mission and vision than museums which continue to follow traditional operating methods that do not respond to the needs of an ever-changing environment. Thank you very much for your attention. I am at your disposal to ask any questions you may have. You may post your questions on the chat and I will deliver to you the answer orally. So in any case, our email, my email address, you can find my email address in this presentation, and you can ask me everything you want. So there is a question, I think. Do you think that there is a future where EU legal framework could be used to encourage a minimum standard for cultural heritage management? Um, yes, probably in the future there must be a EU legal framework that could be used to encourage, as you said. First of all, thank you for this question. There can be a EU legal framework. Probably Professor Stamatouti, who is expert on legal issues, can help you more on this issue. As I said before, I'm an archaeologist, not a lawyer, but I think yes. The Cultural Heritage Management Plan PDF will be uploaded on our digital hub. This probably will we will be able to upload them in the next days. Yes, facts it will be published on resources section of the hub. Any other question? Okay, if there is no more questions, I would like to thank you again for attending this seminar, and you can find my email, and I also invite you to visit our website. Is there any question? No. To visit our websites and follow our social media to gain more information about culture heritage management. Thank you very much.